Hello and welcome back. I'm Joseph Hoffman, and it's time for another sight reading challenge. Today we're going to get started with Sight Reading Trainer Book 3. By the way, if you feel like the sight reading challenges in Book 3 are too hard, that's okay. You can skip this lesson for now and keep practicing in Sight Reading Trainer Book 2. Just be sure to practice 1 or 2 exercises every day and then come back to this lesson when you're ready. Okay, let's get started with Sight Reading Trainer Book 3. Here's the introduction to Sight Reading Trainer Book 3, which you'll find on page 1. If you haven't taken the time already, I encourage you to download and print this out so you can have your own copy to work from at home. Now, for every exercise in this book, use this pre-playing checklist so you can prepare to play your very best. First, take time to notice the following things. The tempo indication, which is located right here. You'll see in this example, it's allegro, which tells you we're going to play this fast. Take time to notice the clefs. Usually that will be a treble clef and a bass clef, but you'll see in this exercise, both hands are playing in the treble clef. So you'll know both hands are playing in this higher part of the piano. Should also check your time signature, so you can know how many beats you're counting in each measure. Also take time to notice the starting notes and finger numbers. In this book, I'm not going to tell you what the pentascale is or what position your fingers are in. You have to figure it out by looking at the starting note and the starting finger numbers. Once you've noticed all of those things, it's time to preview the entire exercise and make a practice plan. Previewing means you're just going to scan through the notes and decide what are the most difficult elements. Is it the rhythm? Is it the left hand? Is it the right hand? Find the parts that look the most challenging and practice those alone first, and then try putting it all together. For example, if the rhythm looks tricky, try tapping and counting the rhythm. You can play the right hand alone, the left hand alone first, and then put it all together. Finally, some tips for sight reading are down at the bottom. Let's summarize these tips. First of all, practice slowly at first. Even if your tempo indication is fast, like allegro, at first you want to practice it slow. Number 2, be on the lookout for symbols like articulations, dynamics, ties, fermata, finger numbers, repeats, any other instructions you might find. Number 3, repeat each exercise until you feel successful. Maybe you'll feel successful after 1 or 2 tries. Maybe it will take you 20 tries. Just repeat until you feel successful and then move on. Finally, remember to stay relaxed and use your best piano posture as you do these exercises. All right, let's get started with exercise number 1. Here's exercise number 1 in Sight Reading Trainer Book 3. Let's do the pre-playing checklist together. So first, what is the tempo indication? If you said moderato, you're correct. That's one of our Italian words that means we'll play at a medium speed. Then what are the clefs? We have treble and bass. So our right hand will be middle C and up, left hand will be middle C and down. What is the time signature? If you said 4/4, great job. And let's figure out the starting notes and finger numbers. For the right hand, what's our starting note and finger number? If you said D and finger 1, great job. What about the left hand? What do you see? If you said F sharp, finger 3, great job. Next up on our pre-playing checklist is to preview the entire exercise, which just means look it over start to finish and make a practice plan. What looks tricky about this? The rhythms don't look hard, do they? It's just mostly quarter notes and half notes. But the 2 hands are doing 2 different things. So maybe we would want to practice the right hand alone first, then the left hand alone first, and then try it hands together. That might be your practice plan. But it's okay if you come up with a different plan. The last thing to notice is that every exercise in section 1 has a pentascale, one of our 24 major or minor pentascales. And it's your job to figure out which pentascale is being used in this exercise. How will we do that? Well, here's one way you could figure it out. I've drawn 5 blanks here, and you can do the same in your music. To figure out which pentascale, we're going to fill in the 5 notes that we are asked to play in this exercise. We see that here we play finger 1 on D, and in the pentascale, right hand finger 1 is going to be playing Do, or the first note of the pentascale. Now, another clue is down here in the left hand. We can see that finger 3 plays F sharp. So left hand finger 3 would be right here in the pentascale. So I can put an F sharp there. Now, if we scan through, we can see we also play an E. I see a G here, and I see an A over here. Can you figure out what pentascale this is? If you said D major, great job. Now, on your own, I'd like you to pause the video, practice the right hand alone, practice the left hand alone, and then try playing it hands together. Remember, when you go hands together, notice where the notes play together and where there are some notes where you may play by themselves. Pause and try exercise number 1 on your own, then press play and we'll look at it together. If you played it correctly, exercise number 1 will sound like this. All right, here's exercise number 2. Let's do our pre-playing checklist. First off, what's the tempo indication? If you said allegretto, you're correct. And now, oh look, there's a little Mr. Hoffman cartoon there. What is he saying? Psst, don't forget to check the clefs. And that's right. Number 2 on our pre-playing checklist is to look at the clefs. What do you notice? 2 bass clefs. That means both hands are going to be on this lower part of your piano. That's really important to notice or you won't be playing any of the notes correctly. So 2 bass clefs, and what's the time signature? If you said 4/4, great job. And now let's check the starting notes. What is the starting note and finger number for the right hand? If you said G, finger 1, great job. Remember, this is bass clef, so use the F line through the 2 dots, and you can see that note's just a step above the F line to know that that's G, just a few notes below middle C. And what note does the left hand begin on? If you said G, you're correct. And that's on a finger 5, your pinky. Now, what should our practice plan be for exercise 2? What looks the most challenging? At first you might think, whoa, the right hand looks pretty tricky. It's got all these 8th notes. But if you look, you might notice the notes are going back and forth. At what interval? We've got this 5th back and forth, but then some of the intervals change. So maybe you'll want to go through and just look at each interval and try the right hand alone. Then maybe you'll want to try the left hand alone, and then try it together. Any other symbols that you notice? It's important to also watch for symbols. There are some slur marks here, which tell us to play legato. There are some dynamics. When you see this kind of dash, that's usually because there's a repeat sign, and you'll play it mezzo forte the first time, and piano the second time. Last of all, we want to figure out what pentascale we're in. Now, I'm going to draw 5 blanks again, and I'd like you to do the same in your music. And now pause the video and see if you can use the techniques we looked at last time to fill in these blanks. Use clues like the notes, the finger numbers, and figure out what are all the notes of the pentascale, and then fill in what pentascale you think it is. Then press play and we'll check it out together. All right, down in the left hand, we see that we play finger 5. Remember, left hand finger 5 is the lowest note of our pentascale. We know that's a G. Or we could have used the right hand. Finger 1 is also on G. and finger 1 of the right hand is your lowest note. So we know the lowest note of our pentascale is G. And that's a big clue because the lowest note is the name of the pentascale. So we know it's G something. Well, let's figure out the rest of the notes. We had an A there, a step above G, and then we have a C on that skip above A, and then here's a B flat, which is a big clue, right? Then if we keep going, we also see some Ds. What pentascale is that? If you figure it out, G minor, great job. Now I'm going to let you practice this one later on your own, maybe later today or maybe in your practice tomorrow. But I'd also like to take a quick peek at a couple of other exercises in section 1, just to help you be ready for them. Let's pretend you were going to do exercise number 4. And you had already done step 1 of the pre-playing checklist. You've noticed the tempo indication, you checked out the clefs, you checked out the time signature, you looked at the starting notes and finger numbers, and you're ready to make a practice plan now. To do that, remember, you're going to scan through and figure out what's the trickiest part of this. Is there something you want to practice in advance? One thing that stands out to me are the rhythms of the left hand. Notice up in the right hand, the rhythms are going to be super easy. They're just whole notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that should be no problem. It's important in your practicing to focus on the hardest parts so you can be prepared for success. So maybe first step would be to try tapping the rhythm of this left hand part and maybe chant the rhythm words. Remember, for a dotted 8th 16th note like this, we can say tim ki. So we could point and say tim ki ta ta ta, tim ki ta ta ta. Now for bonus points, you can also try and notice any staccatos or slurs as you're saying that rhythm, like this, tim ki ta ta ta. See, I made those tas sound staccato, and that will help get me ready to play them staccato. Can you say the rhythms with me in the left-hand part? Point and speak with me. Go. Tim ki ta ta ta. Tim ki ta ta ta. Tim ki ta 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 ta. Tim ki tu. And see, by doing that step, now your ears have heard that rhythm and you'll be better prepared to play it. Now, one other thing about this is that there are so many flats you're dealing with. There's even, my little cartoon guy again is saying, C flats are played just like B natural. Notice, here's a middle C flat. Where is that? Can you point to it on the screen? If you're pointing right here, you're correct. Here's my middle C. A C flat is played the same as B natural. Remember, they are enharmonic. C flat equals B natural. And the reason it's drawn that way is because we already had a B flat. So when we have a B flat already, sometimes we'll call this C flat just to avoid confusion, because in the pentascale, if we were going to draw out all 5 notes that we have in this pentascale, we'd see we have a G flat, A flat, B flat, C flat, D flat. One of the rules of scales is we try to use each letter one time. So it would be weird to have a B flat, B natural, D flat. We use B flat, C flat, D flat, so the alphabet can go in order. G, A, B, C, D, each one with a flat. Now the last thing to notice in this exercise that looks a little tricky to me are these 2 chords. And so this might be something I practice before I try to put it all together. Notice when notes are all smushed together like this, and each flat applies to each note. You have to line up the notes on lines and spaces to make sure you know which flat goes with which note. But I can see that each one of these 3 notes gets a flat. And what are they? G, A, and C. So G, A, and C, but each one gets a flat. So it becomes G flat, A flat, C flat. Can you try playing that chord? And notice it's a staccato. Try it on your piano. Now, can you figure out this next chord? Tell me the letter names. If you said G flat, B flat, D flat. You're correct. Why is this bottom one G flat? Remember the rule that when a note is flat, that flat lasts for the full measure. So this G, because it was flat here, is still flat over here. So all three of these notes are flat for that chord. Now let's put these two together. We have this chord and then this chord. Now you try. Great job. Now on your own later, you can try putting the whole thing together after you've practiced left hand alone, right hand alone, then hands together. Oh, by the way, what's the name of this pentascale? If you said G flat major, great job. Great job getting started in Sight Reading Trainer Book 3 today. On your own, I encourage you to practice your sight reading every day. If you work on just 1 or 2 exercises in Sight Reading Trainer Book 3 every day, you will be on your way to becoming a master sight reader. Happy practicing, and see you next time. What are you doing? Oh, hi, Princess. I'm trying to figure out this rebus puzzle. What's a rebus? Oh, it's a kind of puzzle, sometimes also called a pictogram, where what you see are clues to a word or phrase. I understand. Great. So would you mind helping me figure this one out? I'm kind of stuck. I understand. I know, you already said that. No, I mean, that's the answer. Look, there's an I, and it's under the word stand. The answer is, I understand. Oh, I get it. Good one, Princess. You solved it. I understand too now. Want to do another one? You bet. Okay. How about this one? And this time, if anyone watching out there wants time to figure it out on your own, just pause the video. Then we can always help you if you get stuck. Good idea. Chocolate written with flames. Oh, I know. Hot chocolate. Nice one, Scuba. Thanks.